Broccoli Bob and the Organic Outlaws by Karyn Drum. Broccoli Bob could not ask for a better place to spend the summer than at Farmer Fred's broccoli patch. There was plenty of clean water, warm, rich soil, and lots of sunshine. Everything a young broccoli needed to grow into a strong, vitamin-rich organic vegetable. One day, a man named Herb Eastside came to talk to Farmer Fred. He told Farmer Fred that he would be able to grow bigger broccoli faster if he would start using chemicals to feed the broccoli and kill the bugs and weeds. But a very unusual broccoli was listening to everything Mr. Side said to Farmer Fred. It was Broccoli Bob, an organic outlaw, dedicated to keeping water and soil clean, healthy, and free of chemicals. Broccoli Bob knew that using the chemicals would kill the soil and poison the water. He wasn't about to let that happen to his wonderful broccoli patch. Broccoli Bob knew he could not stop Mr. Herb Eastside alone. He would need the help of the other organic outlaws. Together, they could convince Farmer Fred that the organic farming methods he used now were safer than the chemicals Mr. Side was telling him about. The outlaws would tell him that it might be easier to grow more broccoli using chemicals, but Farmer Fred would be poisoning the place where they all lived. Broccoli Bob had to get to Veggieville, home of the organic outlaws, right away. Bob slowly slipped out of the broccoli patch and headed toward the trail to Veggieville. He turned back to make sure that neither Farmer Fred nor Mr. Herbie Side could see him. As he did so, he missed the sign warning him of the cliff ahead. Suddenly, Broccoli Bob felt the ground slip out from beneath him. He tumbled down, down, down. He rolled, crashing into bushes and branches until he landed on the top of his head, smashing his hat down over his eyes. As he struggled to get up, he got a mouthful of dirt and his head began to throb. He felt very, very dizzy. Then a voice cried out, "Broccoli Bob, is that you in that cloud of dust?" Broccoli Bob pulled his hat off and saw an orange creature standing in front of him. "Who are you?" asked the dust-covered Bob. Carrot Cassidy peered at Bob. "Don't you recognize me? Have you met so many carrots during your summer vacation that you've forgotten about old Carrot Cassidy? How did you get so dusty, Broccoli Bob? Take the shortcut over the cliff or something?" Broccoli Bob stood up and brushed himself off. Then he leaned down and picked up his hat. "I don't know how I got so dusty," he said. "Maybe there was a tornado or something. I don't mean to be rude, but as you can see, I'm not having a very good day." "It is nice to meet you, Mr. Carrot," Bob said. "Wait a minute, Bob," said Carrot Cassidy. "I think you've lost your memory. Look inside your cowboy hat. You'll see the words, 'To Broccoli Bob, from Carrot Cassidy.' Look!" Carrot turned Bob's hat over and pointed to the words written in his hat. "Oh my!" exclaimed Bob. "What should we do, Broccoli Bob?" "Well, first, let's get our names straight. You are Broccoli Bob, and I am Carrot Cassidy. We are both organic outlaws from Veggieville." Broccoli Bob stared at Carrot with a blank look. Page 5. "Does that ring any bells, Bob?" Carrot asked as Broccoli Bob shook his head. Carrot knew that if he got Bob to Veggieville, he would snap out of his daze, especially when he saw his very special friend, Gypsy Rose Leak. Carrot dragged Bob onto his stalk. "Bob, let's pick you a horse from the stick horse bushes and head over to Steam Basket Springs for a little relaxation. Tomorrow, we'll head to Veggieville and figure out how to get your memory back." Broccoli Bob picked a colorful horse. Luckily, he remembered how to ride a stick horse, and the two veggies took off on their horses towards a small mountain. Meanwhile, back at the broccoli patch, Herbie Side was still telling Farmer Fred about the dangerous chemicals. The water was warm and wonderful at Steam Basket Springs. The stars were beginning to pop out of the crisp night sky. Broccoli Bob and Carrot Cassidy were feeling good. Bob felt a lot lighter with the day's dust washed off. Just as Bob got settled in a comfortable spot, Carrot Cassidy blurted out, "Time to get out, Broccoli Bob. We don't want to lose our nutritional value." "What do you mean, Carrot? I was just feeling good. What is so important about nutritional value anyway?" said Broccoli Bob with a frown. "Oh boy, Broccoli Bob. We are in more trouble than I thought. Nutritional value is everything. We had better go see Psychic Celery first thing in the morning. In the meantime, get your stalk out of there and don't ask questions." After a quiet night full of stars, Broccoli Bob and Carrot Cassidy felt quite refreshed. Although the good night of sleep did not bring Bob's memory back, he was enjoying the company of the strange orange creature. As they took off on their stick horses towards Psychic Celery's wagon, Carrot wondered if Bob would ever get his memory back. Soon they could see Psychic Celery's brightly painted wagon. She was standing at the door waving, her jewelry glittering in the morning sun. Come in, please sit down." "So, Broccoli Bob, you have lost your memory," Celery said as she settled into her chair, her bracelets jangling. "Let me have a look into my crystal ball. Perhaps this will give us a clue about what happened to you." Psychic Celery put the crystal ball on the table and rubbed it gently. Broccoli Bob looked at Carrot Cassidy and rolled his eyes. As he looked back at the crystal ball, he saw a little Broccoli Bob inside. "Well, Broccoli Bob, I see you are known for your great nutritional value. But there is a man talking to a farmer who wants to change all that," Celery said. Broccoli Bob shrugged his shoulders and yawned. Carrot Cassidy jumped up and yelled, "Broccoli Bob, we have got to get your memory back. I can tell this is a job for the Organic Outlaws. Thanks, Psychic Celery. We are off to Veggieville." He dragged Bob outside to where their stick horses were tied. Bob barely had time to catch his breath before they were standing in front of a sign that was painted with the words, "Welcome to Veggieville, home of the vitamins." "Look, Broccoli Bob, this is your hometown," Carrot said with a big grin on his face. As Bob stared around in bewilderment at the Wild West town, he noticed an oddly shaped yellow vegetable riding down the street on a skateboard. "Here comes Sheriff Squash," said Carrot Cassidy. "He can't handle a stick horse very well, so he rides a skateboard instead," explained Carrot. "Better hold on tight to that horse you're riding, Bob. Stick horses love to chase old Sheriff on his board." But it was too late. Bob's horse reared up and took off on a gallop after the skateboarding Squash. It wasn't long before the yellow veggie stopped, pulled the skateboard up in front of his face, and tried to hide behind it. Just about then, Carrot came galloping up next to them. "Broccoli Bob, meet Sheriff Yellow Belly Squash, another old friend of yours and an organic outlaw," Carrot said as he put an arm around the frightened Squash. "Shall we all head over to the salad bar for some refreshment?" said Carrot. As they walked across the street to the salad bar, Sheriff pointed to a sign hanging outside the door. "Gypsy Rose Leak, live tonight," was painted in bright letters. If anyone will open Bob's eyes, it will be Gypsy Rose, thought Carrot, as the veggies walked through the swinging doors. "Hey there, Bartender Beat. We've got an old friend here to visit us, but he doesn't remember why he's here," Carrot said as they took their seats at the bar. "Well, I've heard stranger things. Maybe you came home because you heard Gypsy Rose Leak was back in town." "There wouldn't be anything funny about that, huh, Bob?" Beat said with a twinkle in his eye. "I suggest you all take your fruit juice and grab a table close to the stage. The show will be starting soon." Soon the lights in the salad bar turned low. There was a low drum roll, and then Gypsy Rose Leak walked on stage and began to sing. "I need 4 feet to grow. I can't be cramped, don't you know? I'm full of vitamins, count my V's. I've got more than just A, B, and C. I'm the best veggie you've seen. I'll keep you healthy, strong and lean. You must know who I'm talking about. If you do, why don't you shout? Yeah, you've got it right. We can sing the broccoli blues tonight. She stared into the big, bewildered eyes of her favorite broccoli as the song came to an end. She strolled over to Bob, leaned down, and gave him a kiss. Bob was completely shocked. He stared in Gypsy Rose's eyes for what seemed hours. The room was silent as everyone watched what Broccoli Bob would do. Suddenly, Bob leapt from his chair and shouted, "Organic Outlaws! We have a very important job to do and there's no time to lose!" He stood on the table and looked around the crowded room. All the vegetables jumped for joy. Carrot climbed onto the table with Bob and gave him a big hug. "Bob, you have your memory back. Quickly, tell us what the problem is so the Organic Outlaws can come to the rescue." Broccoli Bob had his eyes on Gypsy Rose Leak. He jumped down from the table and went to stand next to her. Then he turned to the crowd and began to tell them the story of Farmer Fred and Mr. Herbie's side. Soon the crowd had heard enough to know that the Organic Outlaws had better get on their stick horses and ride. The Organic Outlaws could convince Farmer Fred and Mr. Side that organic farming methods were the safest for everyone and everything. All the outlaws grabbed their stick horses. Broccoli Bob took the lead, with Gypsy Rose by his side and Carrot Cassidy and the others close behind. The Organic Outlaws were on a big adventure again. Psychic Celery was waiting on her stick horse to join the gang of vegetables as they passed her wagon. You never had to explain much to old Celery. Soon they were closing in on the broccoli patch. They could see Herbie Side talking to Farmer Fred. In moments, the two men were surrounded by vegetables on stick horses. "Well, Broccoli Bob, I was wondering what happened to you so close to harvest time. Why did you take off like that? And who are all your friends?" asked Farmer Fred. "Farmer Fred, I'd like you to meet the Organic Outlaws. I brought them here to help convince you not to use chemicals on the broccoli patch. The chemicals drain into the soil and water, and the poison does not go away, like Mr. Side said. The organic methods you have always used are safer for everyone." All the Organic Outlaws were jumping up and down. "Listen to Broccoli Bob, Farmer Fred. It might seem like using the chemicals works, but what good will that be if you're poisoning the place where we all live?" Farmer Fred turned to Mr. Side, who was now surrounded by Organic Outlaws. "What do you have to say, Mr. Herbie Side?" Mr. Side looked a little frightened as he slowly began to speak. "They are right, Mr. Farmer. The chemicals wash off into the ground and the groundwater, and even into the rivers and oceans. Our company tells us they're safe, but I think these vegetables know something. If the soil and water where the vegetables grow is clean, then people who eat the vegetables will be healthy. I think you have some very happy organic vegetables that live here, Farmer Fred. I am sorry I tried to change that." The Organic Outlaws danced in circles around Farmer Fred and Herbie Side. Gypsy Rose Leak sang out, "When the soil is healthy, everyone is wealthy. We can all be wealthy when everyone is healthy." Everyone sang and danced. They sang songs about compost, ladybugs, and other friendly insects, hoeing the garden, and watching the first little sprouts come up. Even Herbie Side said that he would no longer tell farmers about his chemicals. Instead, he would tell them about the happy, healthy, organic vegetables that grew when organic methods were used. The sun began to sink behind the mountains, and the singing and dancing slowed down. The broccoli patch was safe, and Broccoli Bob knew that he would grow up to be a healthy part of someone's diet. Broccoli Bob thanked each one of the Organic Outlaws for helping him save the broccoli patch and the veggies' nutritional value. Even Herbie Side thanked them for helping him understand the dangers of the chemicals. Broccoli Bob walked back to his row in the broccoli patch smiling. As he waved to the Organic Outlaws, he wished for the day when all farms would be organic and the Organic Outlaws wouldn't be outlaws anymore.